cannot have to stop for this, okay? All right. All right, so before you take and work with any particular recipe, you should be reading the recipe beforehand. If you don't read the recipe beforehand, you might not understand a step. If you don't read the recipe beforehand, you might not have an ingredient, and you might be halfway through and you're going to have to take and stop for who knows what reason. So we're going to read this recipe over together. So with you looking at your actual paper recipe in front of you, will you follow along with me as we read this? It says we need to have 2 eggs, 1/4 cup of milk, 4 slices of thick cut bread. In parentheses, it says Texas toast. If you don't know what that is, we'll talk about it in a minute. 2 ounces of softened cream cheese, which is about 2 tablespoons, 2 tablespoons of raspberry jam, 1/2 tablespoon of powdered sugar, and 1/2 tablespoon of butter or margarine. And the yield is 2 servings. Before anybody gets too upset because you have more than 2 people in your kitchen, know that you are only going to be getting 1/2 serving, and it will be plenty, maybe not as much as you like, but it'll be plenty. We've got to think about the big picture and if you have time to eat a full serving. Okay, I understand all of those ingredients. I have all of these ingredients already out at my fingertips, like you will tomorrow when you begin cooking. Step number 1 says to crack the eggs into a shallow bowl. And I put the black serving bowl. That's what we're going to be using. It's excellent for working with our French toast. We're going to put the milk in with the eggs, and then we're going to whisk it. Step number 3 says we're going to use a table knife to spread cream cheese on 1 and then for 2 pieces of bread. Then we're going to use the same knife to spread jam on the 3rd and the 4th pieces of bread. Number 7 says we're going to put the 2 pieces of bread together to make it like a sandwich. So it looks like a peanut butter and jam sandwich, but no peanut butter, it's cream cheese instead. Step number 8 says that we're going to take and use a griddle. Your head chefs will pick up a griddle right here. You don't have to use a griddle. You can use a fry pan. A fry pan is round though, and you can only cook 1 at a time. Number 9 says when the butter is hot and sizzling, then you're going to dip the sandwiches in this egg and milk mixture. Put it on your frying pan. You're going to cook it for 2 to 3 minutes. Then you'll flip it over and cook it for 2 to 3 minutes more. Now they've not only said 2 to 3 minutes, but they have put in parentheses until it's golden brown. So sometimes the time is not as important as the color. In most cases when cooking like this, color's more important than the time. But that's a guideline, which means that don't check it in 10 minutes or think it's done in 30 seconds. It's going to be done a lot faster than that. Number 11 says after you've removed it from the heat, you're going to cut it in half diagonally. We'll talk about why diagonally when we get there. We're going to use a strainer, and we're going to dust. We're going to garnish with some powdered sugar. And then finally, we'll drizzle it with raspberry syrup if you want to put syrup on the top of it. And that will be your raspberry cream cheese stuffed French toast. All right, I've read this recipe. It doesn't appear I have any questions. If I did, get them answered before I begin. And now I'm going to do the real first step in cooking, which is to take and to wash my hands. And how long am I washing these hands for? 20 seconds. When we're working in our environment, we want to take the time. You know, more than just your palms, you've got your thumbs, you've got the back sides of your hands, you've got in between your fingers. You've got your skin on your knuckles. That's what I'm doing right here. To get the skin unfolded. Then I'm going to take and do my fingernails, get under my fingernails, so that we're all nice and clean. After we have taken and washed our hands, we're going to give them a good dry. And if these guys are not dry enough, you're not going to get your gloves on very easily. Now, I got 6 boxes of gloves. I wasn't thinking very smart. Easier to get on gloves than what the gloves are that are up here in the demonstration unit. So pardon me while I kind of dry off any excess. These babies, they're vinyl and they want to stick a whole lot more than I want them to. We'll go ahead and start the process. And again, there's plenty of gloves there for if you put a hole in them or if you have a problem with something breaking or, you know, whatever it is, there are extras. But I don't want to waste our money on that. I hate to say, no, we can't do chocolate chip cookies because we spent our money on gloves because we were careless with them. But with the gloves, you don't stop and wash them or rinse them. You get a new pair on. If they get dirty and you're using them, you need them to be clean. And I'm going to get mine dirty right here from the get-go. All right, I'm going to take my black bowl according to my instructions. It's shallow and it's wide at the base. And I'm going to crack my eggs. And I know there's some of you who cracked 1,000,000 eggs. I also know there's some of you in here who have never cracked an egg before. So let's talk about how you crack an egg. You're going to hold that securely in the palm of your hand, and you can break it a couple of ways. One is on the countertop. You're just going to take and hold that securely until you feel that or hear that. And wait, can you see this right here real good? There's a little indentation that's caused from that flat surface. I'm now going to take this and I'm going to put my fingers right there in the middle. Support the back of the egg with your fingers. Knuckles are touching on my thumbs. I'm going to pry that open and I can pop that right in. You can also use the side of the bowl. All right, so I'm going to take and hold that in my hand, and this works better if you have a glass bowl that you can take and rack that a couple times on the side. Going to put a crack right here, and you can break that open. Now, occasionally when you do this, you might end up with a piece of shell in your egg white, and you have to get it out. It's a little tricky to try to pick it up with your fingers. So you can actually use the shell and the membrane that's there on that shell to pick up those little cracked pieces, and that cracked piece will want to stick to this membrane. Just a little FYI for a future time. Now I do have egg white on my hands, on my gloves. And if I weren't wearing gloves, I would stop and wash my hands one more time. Your tendency right here is going to be to rinse off the gloves. Doesn't work. And it doesn't work just to take and wipe them on your apron or ignore that it's there. The egg white and from the shell might contain some bacteria called salmonella. Raise your hand if you've heard of that bacteria before. It causes food poisoning. It can get you sick a little bit or a lot. So we don't mess around with this stuff. It's not worth getting sick. So I'm taking these gloves off, which have this raw egg all over it, and I'm going to put a new set on. Don't panic. I know about this. We are prepared for you to have the gloves for it. Careless use of them, not so much. All right, then I'm going to take this guy right here, and I am going to grab my whisk, one of my favorite pieces of equipment. That's why I married someone with the last name of Wiscomb. And I collect them. How about that for a funny thing? Your whisk is like such. I'm going to start by tapping on those egg yolks and breaking them down. And then I'm going to do this pretty vigorously. And wait, can you come up here and let's show our online classmates. We're going to go ahead and beat this till I can't see any more of that white. And you're going to see a little bit of foam on the top. Those of you here in class can maybe see this in the mirror up above. That's nice and foamy. And that's the beaten egg white stage I want you to be at. Thanks, White. Then the next thing that we're going to be doing is adding in some milk. Now, we've talked about measuring liquid ingredients. What measuring cup am I using? The liquid measuring cup. Is it okay for me to measure up here? No, it needs to be on a flat surface. Is it okay for me to stand my very tall self? No, I'm going to get down and look at eye level. So I know that my instructions tell me I need 1/4 of a cup. So I'm going to squish down here and I'm going to spot 1/4 of a cup. And I'm going to pour this until it's at 1/4 cup exactly. If I want a perfect product, I need to measure perfectly. Then I'm going to take this mixture right here, and I'm going to add this to my eggs, and I'm going to whisk these together. Now, if I'm a whole functioning kitchen, like you will be tomorrow, this is when dishes start to get washed. I'm done with my whisk. I'm done with my liquid measuring cup. I'm done with this bowl that has these eggshells in it that I'm just going to throw away, and they could be starting to get washed. Okay, All right, so they are now out of the way. And the whisk is excited to get washed. It jumped into the sink. I'm going to now be on step number 3, which is to start spreading the cream cheese. But I am going to take a little sheet, and I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to heat up my burner. I know that with my burner, it takes a long time for it to warm up. It's the personality of this particular burner. This is an advantage with the gas one because you don't let anything warm up. You turn it on, it's on. Your electric ones will heat up faster than mine does up here. And I want you to watch it carefully when you actually do it. But this is this one. All right, so I'm going to now take the bread, and this bread actually says on the label, Texas toast, and it is a special cut to bread where they take and make it really extra thick. So your sandwiches are the pieces of bread are a lot thinner than this here. Do I have to use Texas toast to make this particular dish? No. You can use any bread, and it'll turn out delicious. This is just a dial up, a little more fancy, something maybe you'd get at a restaurant, okay? So I've got my 4 pieces of bread, and then it says I'm going to spread on some cream cheese. Now, your dear sweet teacher is not going to have this cream cheese at room temperature. If I try to take and spread this cream cheese on this bread right now, it's going to tear it to pieces. Raise your hand if you know what I'm talking about. Most of you do. So I need to take this cream cheese and put it in my microwave to soften it. How long will it take? Depends on what temperature it is to start with. Always best to go slowly and check. You can always cook more, but if you overcook it, it'll be crunchy and crispy and not good at all. So I'm going to take this cream cheese, I'm going to pop it in my microwave, and I'm going to push this button that says add 30 seconds. These microwaves right here are, you touch the one, it starts for 1 minute. And I'm just going to do this for about 10 seconds. There's 10 seconds, and then I'm going to check it. And the way that I check it is I'm just going to grab my table knife, and I'm going to press on this. And if it's soft, like you can see that it's nice and soft, then it's soft. If it was still hard, if I had pressed and it wasn't, I had to push a little bit, then I would add maybe another 5 seconds and 5 seconds, all right? So this is all nice and soft and ready to go. Let's grab my cutting board, and I'm gonna lay out my pieces of bread, and I'm gonna start with cutting this amount in half and putting half on one and half on the other. There's no need to spread and see if you want more. This might seem like a lot to you, but these pieces of bread are really thick, so they end up matching the thickness pretty good. When you spread this, don't leave a big chunk in the center and hardly any to the outside. Make sure you get to the edges of your bread as you're spreading. Make every bite be just as delicious as the next one by making sure you've got even amounts all the way across. All right, I can use the same table knife to now spread my jam. Students, you'll be picking up jam here at school in these little glass dishes. You're going to see these frequently. This is what I will pre-measure things in. These glass dishes need to be returned to me so that I can use them again to give you other ingredients and supplies. So you'll use this, wash that, let it drip dry, and bring it back up to the countertop when you're done. Just going to take half of the jam, put it on piece A, and the other half on piece B. If you say, that one needs a little bit more over here, adjust it before you start spreading it. Divide it before you commit. And again, make sure that you're getting to the edges so that you have just as good a bite with the first as you do with the middle and with the last. Okay? Now, we are going to take, and we are on step number 7. Put the cream cheese slice of bread with the jam slice, making a sandwich. If you will take and match up the tops to the tops, that's just a sign of you're more professional and capable, so that you don't have a bottom and a top piece, you know, with the edges kind of different and not matching. You want to put that back just the way that it came. And again, these things right here, I could go ahead and start washing if I had a dishwasher. All right, now the next thing it says is that we're going to melt the butter in this griddle over medium heat. Before you put the butter in, you need to get the griddle hot. There are pores in the metal, and as you take and heat them, they're going to start to close up. If you start cooking in a cold pan, your food sticks. You want your pan to be hot. Pan to be hot so that it's going to not stick as much. And the butter is going to be given to you here in class in this little wax paper piece. And we just cut right through the paper that it came wrapped in. So make sure you pull that off before you use it. This is going to be margarine, not butter. Does anybody here know the difference between butter and margarine? Anyone know? Yeah. What do you know, Landon?
Isn't it like butter, like it's like more soft if you just put it in the fridge, but then if you put it, or yeah, if you put the other one in, then it gets like very hard, and you have to wait for it.
It could. And both of them actually could go pretty hard in the refrigerator. Do you know what butter is made from? It's made from cream from the milk. Margarine is made from oils from plants, from a plant source. It is not the same thing. And if you're really any sort of connoisseur, you know that butter is better. In other words, that's my opinion. I think butter tastes better. Margarine is the imitation of butter, but margarine is usually less expensive. And for probably about 100 plus years ago, they came up with margarine, and it was a way to use oils that they didn't know what to do with, more or less. I like margarine when I am pan frying, because margarine does not burn as quickly as butter does. That's my personal opinion. Okay, so I've gone ahead and put my griddle on here. It's on medium heat, and I'm just waiting for it to warm up. But before I start cooking, I need to do something. What is it? Take off my gloves, okay? Because now that we're cooking, I don't want to have you touch something hot and have that plastic melt to you. My hands are clean. I can go ahead and get started. So how do I tell if that griddle is hot or not?
You put your hand above it.
Yeah.
Don't put it on.
Don't put your hand on it. If you put your hand on it and it's hot, why? You'll be having a bad burn. The first thing I'm going to do is, like you said, I'm just going to run my hand over here across the top of the surface. And I can feel that there's heat radiating from that. It makes me wonder if it's hot enough. But the real test is to take and get just a little touch of water on my hands and flick it. And if it sizzles, then it's hot. So I'm going to do that right now. You can hear it, can't you? Okay, so I'm ready to go. I'm going to grab my pancake turner, and I'm just going to get rid of that water. Go away, go away, go away. All right, why do I do that? I don't know, it's just me. I'm going to take this little pat of butter. I can turn it upside down and let it just drop off on there. And it's going to start sizzling. Now, students, if you do this and you're not ready with this other stuff and you have this on medium heat, this margarine will burn. And then you're going to have black burned margarine on your French toast. So don't get that on there if you're not ready with this right here. I'm going to grab this right here. I'm going to get this as close as I can, but I don't want to put my plastic bowl on top of my stovetop just in case I accidentally turn one of these others on. Then I'm going to have melted plastic all over. I'm going to flip this. I'm going to let it dribble drop. And then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to place that on that hot griddle. And I will do the same thing with my number 2 piece. Come over here and I'm finding where the butter's at. And I'm going to put that right there. What should I do? Stop and wash my hands. You can say, Mrs. Wiscomb, like, it's like the 9,000th time you wash your hands. You do that when you're preparing, especially other people's food. But especially when we are here in class and we're working with keeping us sane here at school, we want to do that. Okay? And after we've washed my hands, do I need to take and put the gloves on?
Yes.
No, I'm still cooking. Now this says 2 to 3 minutes, and it's a guideline. It's just a guideline. The color is what you're really going for right here. I'm going to use as a guideline the wash. This mixture right here has kind of puddled at the very bottom of my bread. And if I can tell that it's all set up and maybe it's browning around the edges, it's a sure sign that that guy right there is brown underneath. So I'm seeing that it's set up. I'm not necessarily seeing any evidence of brown. So I'm going to give it 1 second, and I'm going to talk about this right here. If you would like, you can get out of your kitchen where you've got salt and pepper. You can take and maybe get a couple shakes of pepper, and maybe you could take that off, or you could give yourself a little bit of salt in here, whisk that up, and make some scrambled eggs after you're done here. But let's check this right now and see if it's ready to go. The first thing that I can tell is generally, if something's not done cooking, it's going to stick. If it's done cooking, a lot of times it will easily move. Let's see what this guy's doing. I've got a non-stick pan, so it's within a little bit of reason. You see that? I'm hardly pushing it off. So chances are that it's probably done. So I'm going to take a peek before I commit and totally flip it. I'm going to come down here, and I'm just going to look underneath the edge. And it's caramel colored. It looks pretty good, but I'm going to cook it exactly 30 more seconds. I want it to have a beautiful color, and the first side that you cook on is always going to look the best when you've got butter or margarine in there, because that's going to be absorbing most of the butter and the margarine, and it just looks a prettier side. So I want the whole shebang. I can take and get my 2 plates out. I could put these right here on my cutting board as well. That's maybe what you want to do, because you are not going to get the full serving. You're just going to get a half a serving. But if I were preparing this in a restaurant, I would have both of those pieces, that whole piece going out. And I might just cut it right here. All right, I think I've stalled for a good 30 seconds. Let's take, I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to carefully flip that all the way over, okay? And I'm going to have cool sound effects. Let's see if this one moved as well too. That one's moving. Let's take a look-see. Looks pretty good. Come on, you're a little bit too slippery. And we'll pop those back in there. I'm on a large burner down underneath, and the heat's going to be coming up right underneath here. I'm going to look for another 2 to 3 minutes. It's going to take that amount of time for it to go ahead and cook that second side through. We want to have it golden brown. We don't want to have it white, because if it's not, that raw egg is going to be still maybe full of some of your salmonella. And none of you want to get food poisoning, that's for sure. Again, when you think that you're just about there, take a quick peek. Notice that when I did this, I had my pancake turner upside down to peek. But when I picked it up, I had it right side up. So I'm going to go ahead, and I'm just a nervous Nelly when it comes to sitting and waiting. This is when I would maybe be washing dishes at home, just because otherwise I'm going crazy. It looks pretty good. I'll flip it over just so you can see it, but the second one, I know it's cooked just like it. I would be flipping back and forth and back and forth. But let's go ahead and turn this one over. See, oh man, it's got some gold. It's not as pretty. It's just not as pretty because it doesn't have the butter going on. Golden color, caramel color, about the same color as our cupboards. And go ahead and put the pretty side up on that guy. And let's just check this guy. I'm going to give him just a second longer if you don't mind. So right here on step number 11, it says I'm going to cut this in half diagonally. I'm going to use the serrated knife. If I use a French knife, it's just going to push everything down. And instead of cutting from the top only, I'm going to be cutting from side to side, and I'm not in a hurry, so I'm carefully going to saw this back and forth so I have no crunch thread. And once I have that all the way cut through, I'm going to open this up. I would put my scrambled eggs right there in a half a second, but I'm not this time. Let's check this guy. Let's see what he looks like. That's on this side of being not caramel color. So watch your time real carefully. And I'm going to turn off my heat. I don't want to leave my burners on unattended. And I'm going to come over here and let's do the same thing. Use my serrated knife, just gently saw back and forth. And then we'll cut this open. And you can see those different layers of cream cheese and jam all in there. Wait, can you get close on that? Does that look pretty good? Let those students at home see what's going on. All right, stay right there, Wake. I'm now going to take the strainer and you're going to pick up a little container of powdered sugar. I'm going to go ahead and make a snowstorm. This is called garnishing. Do I have to do this? Heck no. But when I do this, all of a sudden people say, whoa, that is so cool. It was so easy to do that. And notice that I'm getting it kind of all over the plate. That's a part of presenting food. Cake decoration has nothing on the rest of the world. Then I'm going to take this raspberry syrup, sorry. And you could use any flavor. And I'm going to use this just a little bit to decorate with. Watch that I'm not just taking and putting a puddle, but I'm going to decorate the plate. I'm going to go ahead and go big and wide. If you wanted more syrup on it, you could go the opposite direction. But this way it's kind of all inclusive. Look at this whole plate looks yummy and delicious. And that, my dear friends, is raspberry cream cheese stuffed French toast. Wake, go ahead and cancel us off. We're good. Cook fun at home.